started differently. Just old man noises.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, bastard.
What is up? It's Dave, it's Duncan, back from Metal Epidemic for another Old Man album review. And for this review, Duncan and I...
For this album review, Father Time has brought us
the new album from experimental metalcore band Sleepsculptor.
It's all fucking noise, Dave.
So just rah, rah, rah. The band's
Heavy
new album,
metal like Def Leppard, aye. Oh, I hated my parents in the 90s.
I know. The band's new album, Divine Recalibration, will be released on April 28th via Silent Pendulum Records. Originally formed in 2018, the band found themselves in the midst of a lineup change in 2021 that left them seeking a new vocalist. The Pennsylvania-based group made the decision to put out a post on social media hosting virtual vocal auditions, and Florent Curatola of Canada, by way of France, headed that call. Despite being thousands of miles apart, Florent meshed perfectly with Travis on bass and backing vocals, Jake on guitar and programming, Cooler on guitar and program, and James on drums. And the group began piecing together what would be Divine Recalibration. The full band met in person for the first time when they entered the studio. That's right.
Is it like an app for musicians? It's like a Tinder, like that. You know what I mean? He's got dreadlocks swipe left. Guy says he can play Gravity Blast swipe right. Don't know. Let's find out. If that doesn't exist, make it happen. Yeah. Idea Factory, Dave. Idea Factory.
So the guys entered the studio with producer Matt Guglielmo, who has worked with Cryptodira, Spite, and CU Space Cowboy in March 2022, and things clicked instantly. Over a few weeks, the band had recorded 15 songs that are as infectious as they are technical. On the album concept, the band elaborates it essentially follows a man who uploads his consciousness into a cloud system, and in doing so, he's able to relive, experience memories of all the other people also connected to the cloud. His goal here was to gain knowledge of humanity and ascend into some sort of godhood status. Upon seeing all of the inhumanity present in day-to-day life, he learns that he is incapable of correcting the course of humanity itself, and no regular person is capable of taking on a task of this caliber. It is meant to be a commentary on where things are headed in society today, where many people feel an increased sense of entitlement, importance, and that their voice needs to be heard. So, Duncan.
Yes, that's my name, Dave.
I added these guys to last month's Buried Underground feature on the website. So I was aware of this album that was coming out. I'd heard a few of the singles, so that I had kind of a rough idea of what I was getting into. Had you heard anything by these guys prior to this?
No. This is and you're also shaming me that I don't read your Buried Underground article.
Fuck's sake, Duncan! All my hard work goes unnoticed.
I spend so much time with you now that the thought of actually reading things that you write as well gives me the heave. I'm about 2 seconds away from being divorced for spending too much time with my friends, right? If she's trying to make the moves on me and I'm like that, just wait a second till I finish this paragraph. I'm going to be at my arse before I'm 42. So.
I thought you were going to say you spend too much of your time masturbating. I thought that's where you were going to go, but that's fine.
I will not be judged by you. Right?
Okay.
How dare you? I listen to music for this, including Sleepsculptor, with their album Divine Recalibration, which Dave put on my radar via his Buried Underground article that I didn't read.
Thank you. So, what did you think? What did you make of Divine Recalibration by Sleepsculptor?
Dave, there's a lot to like here.
Here we go.
If you've got your, yeah, let's do a shot. I didn't know what to expect from this. So,
okay.
Upon importing the album into iTunes, other applications are available. The first thing that came up was the genre classification of metalcore, and I'll be honest with you, when I read that, I audibly sighed. I kind of felt despondent. I kind of slumped in my chair and I was like, why why is he doing this to me? Like, haven't we gotten past the metalcore stage? You know what I mean? Are we? Is this still 2002? Like, what we're doing here, people? But the artwork intrigued me. I really liked the artwork.
Yes. Yeah.
It like captured my. It's not the colours you usually associate with that genre of music. And to be honest with you, calling them metalcore, I understand why someone has put that classification on there, but it's lazy, right? It's very, very, very lazy. These guys are, there's a touch of it there, but it's everything else they're doing that's really interesting. The thing to say about Sleepsculptor as a band is that I almost kind of feel like the writing process is, just them throwing things at their guitars to hear if it like honestly, I've never heard so many, and I'm a big Dillinger fan. I've never heard so many like sliding up and down strings and pinched harmonic notes and weird like kind of like and you might think that just makes it sound like just noise, but it's so smartly done that it's kind of jaw-dropping. There is a level of intensity on this release that I think is just unabashedly designed to beat you in the face with something, anything, as long as it's heavy and it hurts. And it consistently, whilst I don't necessarily think their sound hugely changes song to song, the diversity on what they actually manage to put in the songs, the angles that they come from, make every song sound really invigorating and fresh. It's like this kind of, you're looking, you go into a gallery, Dave, as we do at the weekend, and you stare upon a piece of art from one angle, and you don't quite, you get an image of it, but then you stand and look at it from a different angle, and you're like, oh, right, I'm seeing something different now. Still the same painting, but you have a different impression of what it is you're consuming with your eyes. This is this album, but musically, I kind of felt like even after 3 songs, I knew what all their tricks were, but what they did was deployed them in really interesting ways throughout the album to the point that they kept me not necessarily guessing, but they kept me smiling. I found myself smiling a lot, just like, that's a fucking why, like just when you feel like, right, here's the breakdown bit coming up, and I can't wait for this punishing breakdown, and then we're sliding guitars and doing like Dillinger parts, and it really, really works. Vocally, I love this. It's ferocious, it's fucking savage, it goes right for the jugular. It has a kind of higher register in terms of the actual scream, so it's not like all the kind of guttural low stuff. As it sits really, really well with guitars that are doing higher slides and whatnot, so that fit perfectly in it. The mix is brilliant. It's absolutely savage. The drums are punishing, but once again, because the guitars are not just sticking down with the like open string chugga 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 chugga. The bass is audible. The bass is nice and clean in the mix, and it kind of has to be, because those moments where the guitarists are starting to really move up the fretboard, you need something to keep the root going, and that bass player's in there. I think these guys could just like churn out riffs like a computer churns out, like, I don't know, calculations, or chat GP or whatever it's called, to churn out essays. If you were like, see, we missed our time at college, man. Had AI been around there, I would have just been paying money for essays. But it does feel like there's constantly, and when, like, I don't read the press, so you telling me a bit about the press, that idea of the kind of technological aspect or theme or context on the top of it, it kind of fits the sound, and that those moments kind of feel almost to the uneducated like artificial glitches, and they're not actually glitches at all. The kind of the stuff they're doing in terms of noises and synth stuff and all the rest, and at times the occasional drum loop, also totally tie in the sound, adds a little bit of texture to the tracks, which fills them out. But the biggest selling point here
we go,
on this one for me is you get 15 songs and you get it in under 40 minutes. 15 songs under 40 minutes. Do you know what that says to me? No song overstays its welcome.
No, it does not.
Not one track here had a riff or an element where I was like, that end please. Every single one of them was, I constantly felt like I wanted like one more time, one more riff. Like the tracks have this innate quality with the way the band write the songs of kind of making you want more all the way through the album, and it's more a short size makes it incredibly easy just to go back and hit spin again and rattle right through, which is a big selling point for me. Like, bands are now stereotypically releasing longer albums because the medium and formats change. We don't have to worry about like making sure they fit a CD. We can release them digitally and have them as long as we want. I feel there is an occasion for groups to get a little bit lost in what they're doing. And these guys don't have that at all. These guys go, in a lot of respects, it has the ethos of kind of like punk music or even grindcore to an extent, in that it understands it's here to do one job, and that one job is to create this really kind of savage landscape, and it gets and it does it. And just the amount of time it takes to deliver the message and then on to the next one. The flow in the album's impeccable. Yeah, as a band that I'd never heard before, one that's brand new on the scene for this guy here, I think they're doing something really fucking cool and different. Like the kind of the slidey kind of like the kind of digital cat noise. That's used by bands, but I get the feeling it's used as a gimmick, like intermittently on albums. But this is part of their sound. It's just part of how the guitarists play, and I can't imagine they're a static band playing live. I imagine there's a bit of chaos in there, which to me, hearing these songs live would just be the most. I would feel exhausted looking at it. You know what I mean? There's so much energy and so much punch behind it. Yeah, this is really fucking good. It's not a metalcore album. It has metalcore elements, but it's not a metalcore album. But I think it transcends a couple of different elements of kind of the heavier style of music that make them, I would say, appealing to a lot of different listeners coming from different angles. There's enough of that kind of matty, chaotic stuff in here, but the band never forget about a groove. Never, like every single song here, even at its most chaotic, finds a groove. There's always a bit where you can fucking smile and headbang like fuck. So, and that's a talent. It's a talent that they do it all the way right through it, and it gets absolutely savage. By the time you get to, I think it's either Beyond the Veil or Rites of Agony. I think it's Beyond the Veil. Has one of the most crushing, can't even say it's that heavy, crushing endings to a track I've heard this year, which is just eye-wincingly savage. And then they just fly into, it must be Beyond the Veil, because they fly into Rites of Agony after that, and I was like, oh, and then the track was like right in again. I was like, oh, we were just like up and at them. Divine Recalibration by Sleepsculptor, really fucking good. Thoroughly enjoyed it. On my radar. If only someone had written an article about it posted it on the website a month ago. Because I'm thinking about this. Like, I imagine any three songs that you pick here, any 2 or 3 songs as a single that you pick here. Well, we always have that thing where we're like that. Well, is it indicative of the album? Yeah. And I imagine, like, from your point of view, it was. Like, this is not one that's thrown any curveballs.
Absolutely, it was, yeah.
Was that a tick for you, having lived with those couple of songs? Or was that a case of you were expecting dynamics that you never got?
No, I was excited. I loved the 3 tracks that I'd heard prior to hearing the album, so I was just ready for more. I wanted more of that. The 3 songs just were not enough for me at that point. The first thing I'll say is that this album comes 4 years since their first release, which was Entry Dispersal. And as I said, they've now got a new vocalist, obviously. However, I think the biggest change from that last release to this one is just how sonically explosive this album sounds. The old, right, so here's the thing, the old material was a little bit more on the kind of mathy side, probably more experimental than this, which I think is probably where the whole kind of like experimental mathcore, experimental metalcore thing probably came from.
Yeah.
The original kind of album. But this album seems way more than that. This is like, it's got a bit of metalcore, but it's weaving between metallic hardcore, chaotic hardcore, tech metal. There's even like a wee tinge of new metal in there at times as well. If you listen close enough.
Say it like it's a bad thing, Dave.
Not at all. But aside from that kind of like that diverse mix of styles, the songs are just way better in every way. You can hear there's been a progression and the way these songs have been built. It no longer feels as experimental or kind of wandering. These tracks feel like they've been like trimmed of all the excess fat. They, as you said, they get in, they get out, with virtually none of them overstaying their welcome at all. And they hit with, like, every track just hits you with maximum impact. I was like, when I was listening to it, I was getting like a mix of like Car Bomb, Vatican, a little bit of Ion Dissonance in there, Frontier, but it's got a bit of a kind of like Converge type hostility about it as well. Every track just feels like a constant countdown to detonation. Like, it's very, very volatile, with such a devastating production. I think
production's insane.
yeah, I think Matt Guglielmo, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, he's done a killer job of making this feel really intense, very, like, quite turbulent, yeah, but really satisfying, and like and its kind of impact. But I'm pretty sure, I think it's the same guy. I think he played drums with the Acacia Strain and Human Mouth. I think he also played drums on the Alluvial album that we reviewed a couple of years back. So I think, as a producer, obviously he's used to bands with that chaotic sound, and I think he knows how to get the best out of the band as a producer. I think the album sounds the part to me, and musically, like, there's a huge amount to kind of unpick and enjoy here. A lot of like complex mechanics to these tracks. You can tell they've spent a massive amount of time piecing these parts together, so that they flow well and feel cohesive, which they do. And every track has a moment, or, you know, a part where you just stop and go, fucking hell, like, just like ridiculous. Whether that's just something extremely punishing or something just technically impressive, because the level of playing here is of a very high standard. I mentioned earlier how many different styles they're incorporating into this, and they nail it, like, performance wise, from the extremely technical mathcore type stuff where they're playing with like various time signatures, right through to the more kind of savage hardcore stuff where they just kind of lock into something vicious. It sounds really well executed across the board. Vocally, I agree with you. I think the guy's tone is awesome. It's really like just scorched earth.
It's two steps away from we always come back to. It's got that kind of agony scene.
Yeah.
That kind of thing where, like, I wish more vocalists were like that. It's kind of like it's like a metalcore version of a black metal vocalist. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
fucking awesome.
Just perfect level of grit and intensity. But it does actually, it kind of relaxes that rasp every now and again, and he goes more into kind of like shouty hardcore style. There's also like little touches of like melody on like tracks like Panacea, which was a little bit, I could hear a little bit like a Daryl Palumbo of Glassjaw in there. And then the closing track, Divine Intervention, he really kind of lets the melody out, and it's almost like in a post-hardcore type style, but big cleans on that one, which I really liked. I mean, I'd say I'd like a little bit more of that if I'm like being picky about things. I think he'll only touch on it a little bit, but I feel like there's scope there to do a wee bit more. If I had any kind of feedback on the album, I think those moments where he does drift into something cleaner, they sounded fantastic, and I felt like those moments, they created more of a memorable hook on the album, because for me, it's the only real thing that I found this album was missing a little bit. The riffs and the technicality are great, and there's like a ton to unpack and enjoy from that point of view. It's very varied, you know, rhythmically and tempo wise, but it doesn't give you a huge amount of light and shade. It's pretty constant. That being said, I do like some nice little kind of, almost like you could say atmospheric kind of synthy electronic moments on tracks like An Equivalent Exchange, Venerate, Plaster Saint as well. So there are little bits that are kind of breathable on this, where the relentlessness kind of pulls back. But I think they could incorporate more of that as well. I'm not sure about the length. I know you were like 38 minutes, 15 songs. I think maybe this was maybe 2 songs too long, to be honest.
Oh, Dave. No,
I think
Dave.
this would have been a little bit neater around the kind of half-hour mark for me. I think it was maybe just a couple of songs too long. But it's like I'm picking it at like minor gripes here. Out with that, I totally enjoyed this. I think Sleepsculptor have improved their skills quite a fair bit since that last release. This lands with so much power and is far more effective as an album. Scores for this one from Sleepsculptor. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm coming in with a 4 on this one. I really like it. I think it's got punch, it's got vigour, it's got enough in here to make you want to come back and back again. I'm super curious about this. Like, just when you think you've got a really good grasp on where the year is turning out musically, I've already started to pick out some themes. And the kind of Dillinger-inspired noisier side has been prevalent last year and this year, to the point that you can almost get a little bit... It's not as unexpected anymore when bands just really start hitting you with kind of jazzy like sections of just discordant, like kind of weird high range noise.
Yeah.
Bands like this use it in really inventive ways, and I think, like I say, it'd be easy to write off as a gimmick if they weren't so fucking good at it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is definitely an album we'll be checking out throughout the year. It just has that value of me where if I just want to shove on something that I want to listen to that's just going to be savage as fuck, then the Divine Recalibration is.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd go 4/5 on this one as well. I think it's an absolute rager. Like, if you're looking for something that's just going to slap you silly, then this is the album for you. It has the riffs, it has the kind of technical acumen to really impress. And the band sound like they're moving forward towards a sound that kind of defines them as a band. Where fans of the genre will definitely sit up and take notice of this.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, a lot to enjoy here. 4/5 from me. This one drops on April 28th on Silent Pendulum Records. Links below to the band, to the Bandcamp, all that sort of stuff. Check it out. Let us know what you think in the comments below.
I'm sure they will.
Yes, that is the review. Thank you for checking it out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone. Looking for answers that will provide.